Good morning, welcome to the garden. I am just out here building some of these Vego garden beds. I'm super excited to get growing with these. I think it's gonna be really fun to have some more garden space in the garden today. So I'm just in the process right now of putting these beds together, and I thought I would share this with you. I will say I did get sent these beds. I do have an affiliate code with Vego, so I will put that in the description if you are interested. It just supports the channel if you do decide to purchase any. But just in general, I think adding some like container space, raised bed space is always a really fun thing and helpful way to grow in your garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this next one and talk a little bit about raised bed spaces in a small garden. It can be a really big game changer. So in my garden right now, these are basically gonna be like containers. I'm growing on an all cement space, so I have to come in and trim this little piece, but these are basically just gonna be a container. I'm gonna line the bottom and then put soil in. But even if you have like an in-ground space, and if you're not doing a total container garden, having raised beds is helpful for a couple reasons. One, you can adjust the soil. I know like in my past garden, I had a ton of clay and it was really hard, especially in those first couple years where I hadn't built up the soil. It was really hard to grow in it. So by having the raised beds, I was able to get some nice lofty raised bed mix soil into the garden, which made a big difference and really helped the plants. But then also in a small garden space, sometimes having the elevation of like the raised beds, it brings your plants up, and it actually, for me, like it helped organize them, bring them up and closer to the sun. I had a fence around my garden, so in like that small backyard kind of like townhouse garden space, it really helped to lift them. And then yeah, it just helped to keep everything kind of no, there's something about raised beds that helps, at least for me, helps me to feel like the garden is more like orderly. The plants can spill off the sides of the raised beds, but they're still contained. And so instead of just like totally growing in amongst each other, I don't know, they're just somehow easier, at least for me, to kind of keep things growing in a nice, orderly, connected way. So right now I'm just building these up. I thought it would be really fun to have just a little bit more of like real, I guess, raised bed kind of space out here. So I've got the two 2x6 raised beds, and then we'll have these. I have these circle ones, which are about like a 2-foot circle, and then I also have another 2x4 raised bed, which is going to be almost 2x4 raised bed, which is going to be really nice. So I'm just putting them together. This was a pretty easy process, I have to say. I built my last raised beds, I built out of wood, and it was it was just like one of those that you like much easier in the sense that you just like had the woods, they fit in the little slats together, and so you just like popped it all together. But the issue with those was in our last garden, I was in Virginia, and it was so hot and humid there that the wood, by 2 seasons, it was pine. I did use an all natural like waterproofing stain on it, but by 2 seasons in, it just started rotting and started falling apart. A corner fell off one of the raised beds, and after that, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to, from now on, use metal raised beds. You know, obviously now I'm here in California for this year. It's not quite as hot, or not quite as humid as Virginia is, but even so, I know we're gonna be going back to Virginia, back to that humidity, back to all that rain, and I just want to have garden beds that are going to last. So I'm gonna put all these together. It's just a process of doing a lot of screws, but other than that, it's actually been pretty easy. Setting up this first raised bed really didn't take me that long. Just gotta, you know, one screw after another, but we'll get it done. Okay, I'm just gonna finish just making sure that I tighten everything down. And once I've got them all in, the nice things about these too. So I know when I was trying to find like coatings and everything to stain my wood raised beds, I was really worried about what would be leaching out of the wood into the garden. Obviously, when you're growing your fruits and vegetables, you want to have something that's safe. There's no point to have your homegrown garden food if it's not going to, if there's going to be chemicals leaching out of whatever container or raised bed you're growing. So the nice thing about these Vego garden beds is they are sealed with a food safe seal on top of it. So there's not going to be anything leaching into your soil and then potentially into your food. So that has helped me to feel, I don't know, just feel a little bit better about growing my vegetables. Like obviously in a metal container like this, it's just something you end up thinking about. Also, I know one thing I was thinking too with the metal raised beds is that they, are they gonna get hot? Is it gonna be like hot for the plants or something? But they actually talk about how these have a heat reflection, so you actually don't have an issue with like your roots getting too hot or anything in that way. So that is good too. I don't know, just some things to think about. It's really hard, especially when you're first picking out raised beds or containers or everything to make all of these decisions. It can feel like there are kind of a lot of choices, and there's so many options out there when it comes to the garden and garden products. Yeah, I don't know. It can be kind of hard to pick and choose. But the Vego gardens, I've looked at them for a long time, even before I was going to work with them. I knew that this was the garden product that I wanted, the kind of raised beds that I wanted to grow in. One, because obviously they're metal, like I said, and then also because I just was worried about safety, and there are maybe some like cheaper metal raised bed options out there, but you don't know what's going to be going into the soil. So that was my plan with these. So this hasn't been too bad at all to put together. One thing or piece of advice my dad always taught me when I was putting together anything with this was not to tighten everything down until you have the whole bed constructed. So I've been kind of just putting all of these screws on and tightening them to make sure that everything lines up. Like here, I gotta just make sure I can actually get this through. And then I'm gonna come back in, and you could use a screwdriver. I actually have my drill here, and I'm gonna use it to just hold this in and just tighten all of them, just to make sure it's nice and snug. I think it's pretty strong, and these obviously aren't super huge raised beds, the ones that I picked, so I'm not worried about like the weight of the soil pushing the sides of the raised bed. If you start to get into bigger raised beds though, I know that can be a concern. You want to really make sure like you have all of your screws really tight and everything, so there's a lot of strength in the structure. Okay, here we go. The next thing that I'm excited about is deciding what to plant in these. I don't know, I'm so torn about what else I want to add to the garden. I mean, I want to add like everything, obviously, but I'm torn about like, do I want to do, some more squash? I think at least one, I'm going to try to make into some kind of squash raised bed space, because as I've been saying, I really want to have a good squash harvest this year, and I feel like a nice big space like this would be good for something like that. But I also kind of thinking maybe I want to do some corn. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so many options. The last step in this process is going to be adding this safety lip. So this is really easy too. You just set it over and then push it down. And this just makes it a little bit less sharp. I don't find that, I mean, this isn't super sharp, like you wouldn't just cut yourself on it, but I think it's nice to have this here, especially if you're, you know, leaning over into the garden, leaning on your garden bed at all. It's nice, and it adds a nice little black trim, which I kind of like too, because I do have some of the black containers, and yeah, my garden, like, I think when I get the tomato arch, I'm gonna do that in a black metal, trying to keep things cohesive. In my last garden, I had some green metal, but I really moved away from that in this garden. With the small garden space, I try to keep sort of a sort of minimal palette, just so it's not overwhelming and you're not switching between a bunch of different colors. Of course, I did go for this pearl white is the color here. And I think it's gonna go really nicely with the galvanized of the big troughs, and hopefully still stay within kind of like a cohesive-y, nice look for the garden. All right, I have one more bed to build. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Phew, I did it. I put all three of them together. It really didn't take me too long. I got in a pretty good system where I would do the top screw on each side and then the bottom so that it lined up, and then work my way back through the middle. I probably should have worn gloves. It was a little rough on my hands, but it went pretty fast once I got the hang of it. It's nice because the first two screws on each side have these nice little caps on it, and then the rest is just a normal one. But yeah, here's all three. Now I am gonna have to come back in and trim the edges of these safety straps. So I just need to go get like my little scissors or something to do that. And I also need to think about the layout of where we want these. I am gonna have to move the containers. I'll probably clump the containers more around the Vego beds just to make them like the front. They're slightly lower, that they're a 17-inch side, so slightly lower than the 2-foot troughs. So I think they'll be better like just in the front. Now, of course, I could adjust it for the sunlight, but we kind of like, this is east, west, our north-south sun, it doesn't really matter. Being closer toward me where I am standing right now is better as far as the sunlight, because the fence does block some of the sun. So bringing them this way is better for the sunlight, and it's also better for how we look at the garden. We are usually sitting over that way, so we will see the garden beds better if they're in front of the troughs anyway, so, and they'll get more sun. So I think that'll be good. I am gonna, of course, fill them up with some of this potting mix, and I'm gonna also figure out some way of lining the bottom so that the soil isn't directly on the concrete. I'm not entirely sure yet exactly what I'm going to use, but I definitely don't want the soil just resting on the concrete because I don't want to stain it a bunch. And I'm going to have to move all these containers out and then figure out how much space I want to have as my like walkway. So there's a little bit more process
put some more plants in
to
your
do.
pots, Mama.
We are gonna have to put some more plants in. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a lot of planting. Luckily, we got a good amount of rain the last couple days, so hopefully for all the seeds that I have planted, those will start coming up, and then yeah, we'll fill these up with some soil and then start planting into these raised beds. They're really pretty though. I really like them. I've always watched everyone else's. As I said, I knew I wanted these raised beds, and I've looked at them, tried to figure out what colors to get. But I thought the pearl looked pretty good with the galvanized. There's a few different colors though. There's like some nice dark greens. There's like a dark green, a light green. I think there's like a gray charcoaly black, which was the other one I was kind of considering, was maybe going for like the charcoal kind of dark black color. But I don't know, something about the light, like this pearl color, I think is really nice. It's just sort of like light and bright. And then I think it'll be pretty once you see like the green leaves, you know, eventually when I have my gorgeous squash plants that are just growing endless amounts of squash, they'll be spilling over the side here, and it'll be really handy. And as I said before, it really helps to maximize space if you are going to grow those vining crops, to have them in raised beds like this, because they can kind of spill down, out and over, and they don't just have to go out. So that's going to be really fun. Okay, so anyways, I think that's all I'm going to do today. I am going to spend a little bit more time moving the containers and getting ready to fill the raised beds on a different day. But right now, we've got some other things to do today, so we're gonna do those. But I did just want to get them all built, because I think that was the biggest hurdle. And I know for a lot of us, I mean, I'm not super handy. I'm trying to learn. I want to be more and more capable as far as building things and DIYs and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not just super handy with it. But it really, I was a little nervous to start it and how long it was going to take me, and it really wasn't too bad. Like, you definitely can do it if you can handle just doing like the nuts and bolts, and you can do it. It was not too much of a process. And the nice thing now is that these will last for years. They are this beautiful coated metal. They will be healthy for the plants, and they will be healthy for us eating the produce from the plants, and they will just hold up and last forever. I've heard really great things as far as people not dealing with, you know, rust issues and stuff like that, that they really do well. So I am super excited to put those to the test, but I feel really good about this. All right, anyways, that is the raised beds in the garden. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon as we get these put in their final spot and all filled up.